Welcome to the St. Tammany Parish Planning Commission meeting of April the 11th. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Seeger. Truxillo. Ress. McInnes. Doherty.
Here.
Fitzmaurice. Crawford. Troncoso. Smale. Hernandez. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Y'all see a new face up here. His name is John Gaines, and he is the appointee for District 3. Martha Casabon, if I'm correct, is that right, John?
That's correct.
Appointed him, so he's not going to be voting tonight. They don't have all the paperwork signed off on, but hopefully beginning next month he will be voting. Public announcements, please silence all phones and electronic devices. If you disagree with a decision the commission makes, you have the right to appeal it to the council, and the appeal cards are over on the railing to my right. Speaker cards, if you wish to speak on a case, you need to fill out a speaker card and let us know if you want to speak or not. Public speaking, 10 minutes each side and 5 minutes for rebuttal. And you're welcome to leave the building after the case is heard, or you can stay and watch the rest of it. Please rise for the invocation by Commissioner Seeger, and we're going to have Leslie Delott, our secretary, do the pledge.
Heavenly Father, grand architect of the universe, we beseech your continued blessing upon the citizens, elected officials, employees of this commission of St. Tammany Parish. May we realize that your all-seeing eye is upon us and be influenced by the spirit of truth, that we might enjoy thy divine approbations here below. Dear God, grant us the faith of Job, the strength of Samson, and especially the wisdom of Solomon, as we endeavor to positively influence the policies of our fair parish for the good of all of its citizens. Let the world, and especially St. Tammany Parish, be a better place for us being here. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. In your packet, you had the March 8th meeting minutes. Hopefully you had an opportunity to review them. Commissioner Crawford.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve the minutes. Commissioner Truxillo.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Truxillo. Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Okay, thank you. All right, request for postponement. Ms. Helen.
Tammany Trace right-of-way for the purpose of constructing a concrete sidewalk for the proposed recreation area to the Tammany Trace associated with Maison de Lac. We have a request to postpone indefinitely.
That's,
Item number 2 on the agenda, entering the Trace right-of-way.
okay. Item 2 is postponed indefinitely.
There's a request to postpone indefinitely.
Okay. All right, let's read that into the record so we got that. And all right, it's item 2, request to enter the Tammany Trace right-of-way for the purpose of constructing a concrete sidewalk from the proposed recreation area of the Tammany Trace associated with Maison de Village. The developer owners, Mid-South Developers LLC, engineer surveyors J.V. Burks and Associates, Parish Council District Representative is Arthur Laughlin. General location, the property is located on the south side of the Tammany Trace, south of US Highway 190, west of Silver Road, Ward 9, District 11. Commissioner Truxillo.
Since the staff recommend postponing indefinitely, I make a motion to postpone indefinitely.
Okay. Commissioner Rest.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Roan, you have any comment?
No, we concurred with staff's request, and so we appreciate the consideration by the commission.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Item number 12 on the agenda, which is the request to postpone indefinitely one more time. 2022-2903 PP Maison de Village, request to postpone indefinitely. Number 12.
Okay, this is under preliminary approval. Item 12, the case number is 2022-2903-PP, Maison de Village subdivision, developer owners, Mid-South Developers LLC. Engineer is J.V. Burks and Associates. Parish Council District Representative, Honorable Arthur Laughlin.
They didn't vote.
A general location, the property is located on the west of Louisiana 433, south of US 190, Slidell, Ward 9, District 11. This has been postponed a number of times, and we have a request by the Paul, you wish to comment?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone, members of the commission, on behalf of the developer. We had a community meeting several weeks ago in these chambers. Some of you were, of course, present. We felt like the meeting was productive. There was some good dialogue back and forth. As a result of that meeting, we met with staff about the project, and in particular about Silver Road, which those of you that were there, we heard a lot about Silver Road, its condition, and so forth. In our discussions with staff, it became clear that that was not an issue that we would get resolved in a 30-day period. We had some good discussions, and there are some possibilities on some things that could be done, but that requires some work from our engineer, time for the staff to be able to review it. So with all that being said, and knowing how long this matter has been tabled before, we would ask you to table it indefinitely. Once we have those issues resolved to the best of our ability, then we will ask to be put back on the agenda, and we'll come back before you. But you won't have to deal with this every month. I have let the residents know as well that we were making this request, and that once we were done, we would ask to come back on the agenda, and we would let them know at that time as well. So I appreciate your consideration of the request, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those for the commissioners.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morone. There are some people here that came to hear this case. I don't want to be sure that you understand that it's not going to be heard tonight, probably not going to be heard for a couple of 3 months. So just watch the agendas as they come up on the internet, and you'll see it come up whenever they get ready to have it go forward with us. So, Commissioner Truxillo.
Based on a recommendation from the staff, I make a motion to postpone indefinitely.
All right, we have a motion to postpone indefinitely. Commissioner McInnes.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McInnes. Commissioner Crawford.
Question, are we voting on both of these postponements together, or do we have to vote separately?
We're
Yeah,
going to
I
vote
think,
separately. I've got to go back and
yes.
Okay.
redo that one. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second to postpone 2022-2903 PP indefinitely. Please vote.
The motion to postpone indefinitely carries.
Okay, and I failed to get a vote on item 2, which is the one that we talked about earlier. It's the request to enter the Tammany Trace right-of-way. So I need to get a vote on that. Please vote.
The motion to postpone indefinitely carries.
Thank you.
And item number 13 on the agenda, 2022-3193 PP, Jubilee RV and Camping Park, number 13. There's a request to postpone for 1 month.
Okay. Let me read that into the records. Item 13, cases 2022-3193-PP, Jubilee RV and Camping Park, Phase 1 through 3, developer owners Jubilee RV LLC, engineer surveyors J.V. Burks and Associates, Parish Council District Representatives Honorable J. Gary. General location, the property is located on the southwest side of US 190s, south of Indian Village Road in Slidell, Ward 8, District 13. This was postponed at the January 10th meeting and February 14th and March 8th meeting for 1 month, and we're getting a request from the developer to postpone for another month. Mr. Shane.
You, Mr. Chair. Good evening. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm at P.O. Box 1870 in Covington, with a voice that's better than what you're hearing now. I represent the owner-developer. We simply have not been able to complete the modifications that staff has requested and timely submit those. So rather than try to hodgepodge through preliminary this evening, we want to make a full submittal, hopefully, of everything that staff's looking for. And I do believe that when we come to you in April, we'll be ready to move forward. So we'd respectfully request a postponement till April.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shane. All right. Come back to the commission. Commissioner Truxillo.
I make a motion to postpone for 1 month.
Motion by Commissioner Truxillo to postpone for 1 month. Commissioner Troncoso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I second.
Second by Commissioner Troncoso. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to postpone to May carries.
Thank you. All right, anything else, Helen?
No.
All right, we'll go back to the item 1 on the agenda under revocations. This is case number REV 23-04-002, the revocation of an unopened portion of Ozone Street located south of Robert Road, east of Louisiana Highway 59, between Square 17 and 18 and the Abita Springs Terrace subdivision as delineated on map 1C, Ward 4, District 7. The applicant is Amy Wagner. Parish Council District Representative is Honorable James Davis. Staff?
The applicant is requesting to revoke an unopened portion of Ozone Street to assimilate that property to the adjacent property in which they own. The staff has no objections.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am, and you are?
I'm Amy Wagner. I didn't know if I needed to come up or not.
If you have any comments for us?
Not at this time. Unless you have questions, I have answers.
Okay, all right. Anyone in the audience wish to speak either for or against on this item? I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner Truxillo. Second by Commissioner Truxillo. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is item 3, a request to enter the parish right-of-way for the entrance of the proposed View Carre subdivision, Bootlegger Road. The developer owners, Allstate Financial Company, engineer surveyors, Kelly McHugh and Associates, Parish Council District Representatives, Honorable Marty Dean. General location, the property is located on the south and west side of Bricker Road, north of Louisiana Highway 21, north of Interstate 12, I-12, south of Covington, Ward 1, District 1. Staff?
Yes, sir. The petitioner has requested to enter the parish right-of-way for the purpose of installing turn lanes associated with the View Carre subdivision. Staff has no additional comments at this time. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Morone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone on behalf of the petitioner. As Theodore just mentioned, this request is to enter Highway 1085 for the purpose of constructing turning lanes that are required by our traffic study for View Carre. We have reviewed the resolution and the requirements by the parish, and we will comply with those. So we would respectfully request your approval to enter the right-of-way for the purpose of constructing these turning lanes.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anyone wish to speak against? Good evening, Ms. Wagner.
I've missed y'all. Nancy Wagner, 33 Hyacinth Drive, Covington. My comment on this request is that it is premature. It is a request to enter the right-of-way to put in left turn lanes that would serve the proposed Parkway, Armstrong Parkway, and Weston Glen, which is a subdivision, right? That would be the intersection. This portion of Bootlegger that goes from Highway 21 up to the roundabout at Auctioner has Maison du Lac. It has the St. Tammany Parish Hospital Outpatient Center, and they're now building, the hospital is now building a new ambulatory surgery center. It seems to me that when we're doing planning, we want to look at the whole needs of that stretch of the road. And I know that it's been discussed, the possibility of, well, what do you do for that stretch of the road? And there could be one of those lanes that goes down the middle through that section, which would serve the turning needs for all of those areas. And instead of spending the time and the effort to put in this one turning lane that might have to be undone when the road would be addressed in the long term, I would just urge you to consider, perhaps referring to engineering and to planning, what would be the solution for this stretch of the road. Because what we're talking about is adding 381 homes plus a strip of commercial buildings to an already overburdened section. And for those of you who know Terabella, they continue to build and build and build there, and they have to get in and out on that stretch also. So that's why I'm not opposed to there being a turn lane there. What I am suggesting is that approving this is premature when there hasn't been a sufficient plan for that entire area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak against? All right, we'll go to rebuttals. Paul?
Well, we certainly would welcome the parish, doing a comprehensive study of the area, but obviously that's out of our control. I mean, we have a project. We were required to do a traffic impact analysis, which we did. That impact analysis said that we need to construct these turn lanes at our cost, which we're willing and able to do. And while at some point in time there may be some global fixes or some global improvements in that area, we recognize that our improvements might be pulled out, but we don't know when that's going to be. That's out of our control, and we would simply ask that we be allowed to construct the turn lanes that our traffic study requires us to do. I would also point out that this approval, we have a year to submit the information and 2 years to do the work. So if there is something that happens in the interim before we complete that work, then certainly we're all ears in that regard. But absent something that's more on a global scale that would be out of our hands, we need the ability to move the project forward, and this is the proper request at the proper time, so we would ask for your consideration and grant that approval this evening.
Okay, Ms. Wagner?
Well, it may be out of the developer's hands, but it certainly would not be out of the Planning Commission's hands to say, let's take a look and look at what planning should be. And if they have another year or two in order to do that, it seems to me there's no rush to approve this, especially since there's still no scenic rivers permit for Timber Branch, and there's no 404 permit for the majority of the wetlands on the site. So I just, again, say that it seems premature to approve this, especially as you'll be looking at the agenda item later tonight with all the concerns that staff and many residents have on the preliminary approval for this project.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Truxillo.
This is the staff. Do you know of any global road work that can be done on Bootleg Road in the near future?
We don't have, I guess you would say, a global corridor for Bootlegger Road. We do have several projects planned along the length of Bootlegger Road. We have J-turns near the church, closer to 21. We're looking at improvements on the Coquille end as well, with turn lanes at that end. But for the, I guess you would say, the long stretch in between, we don't have any corridor study or anything in progress for evaluation of that area. I would also like to point out that Tarabella is still on the hook for improvements for their entrance as well, and that's going to be triggered at some point in their development for improvements at that location.
Okay, second question. These turning lanes is necessary for the safety of the people traveling the highway, correct?
It was warranted by the traffic study and the turn lane warrants, yes, sir. Safety is one aspect of that, but turn lane warrants for functionality of the roadway are another aspect. So it was warranted under those turn lane warrants.
Okay, thank you very much for the information. I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Truxillo to approve. Commissioner Ress.
That's a question for staff, too. I think the issue of an overall plan is valid, although it's not up to the developer to come up with that plan. But I think staff. But what I was looking at here, why, even if we decided to put a center turn lane down the whole length of that, would that change these intersections? Because they would actually already have the turn lane portion put in that they're proposing to put in already. All we'd be doing is making it longer, going further down the road, wouldn't we? You understand what I'm saying? If we wanted to put a center turn lane all the way past all these businesses, all the way down along, it's just an extension of what they're putting in now in reality, isn't it?
That's a possibility. It's a little premature to give you a definite answer on that right now. I mean, we would have to evaluate that whole road, see where it already has turn lanes, where it doesn't, where it has different cuts. Is it a right in, right out only? So there would be a number of things that factor into it. Ideally, yes, when we design that project, we would want to utilize all the infrastructure currently in place to where we produce one seamless project. But I can't tell you with certainty that that will be utilized at that intersection.
Okay, thank you. I see what everyone else has to say.
Mr. Crawford.
Question for Ted. Ted, you said these turn lanes were required by the traffic study. Is that for the requirement for the neighborhood that we're getting ready to review later on this evening?
That is correct, yes, sir. It's in association with the Vucre subdivision, which is on the docket under preliminary tonight.
Okay. So if we didn't approve that, then this could change depending on what goes on?
Very likely, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Troncoso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Generally speaking, I don't understand why we're looking and to vote on this when there's so much variable here relative to A, the approval of the project. I'm kind of ahead of ourselves to vote on this, staff. I guess there's a question. For staff, is this normal to do that?
My answer to you, sir, would be it's not atypical for them to request this. They, the petitioner, have the right to request to enter a public right-of-way
Sure.
in accordance with our state laws and our St. Tammany Parish ordinances, which they're doing tonight. To say it's premature is, how do you want to run your project, your business, your scoping? They have the right to ask for it, which they're doing tonight, and be on that agenda and submit that documentation in accordance with the requirements outlined in the resolution. So, I mean, it's not uncommon, just like they would ideally do a traffic study, which they've done, submit to the Corps, which they've done for a portion of it. All these things are required for that approval, so they're running that project as they see fit for their schedule. So I wouldn't call it a premature, but it's just when would they like to do that portion?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have any other commissioners that wish to speak on this? Okay. I need to get a second on this motion. Tom, you gonna?
A comment.
You have a comment? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay.
When I look at the second part of this case, 2023-3248 PP, I see comments in comment 2. Seems like that's going to take a while before that those studies and those evaluations can be done.
Bless you.
And so, again, in agreeing with my fellow commissioner, I would like if we could address that issue first before we grant this one.
Okay.
So, do I need to put that in the form of a motion?
No, I didn't think, I see Mr. Morone there, and I think his intent is to answer your question.
That would help me make a determination on this.
So, Mr. Seeger and members of the commission, item number 2 on the staff comments, excuse me, deals with a portion of Bricker Road. And it deals with the perhaps raising or bridging a portion of Bricker Road that is on the east side, if you will, of our project. That we would not be accessing that side or that area of Bricker Road until phase 2, which would be, you know, very long time into the future, a year or more into the future. So all, and Mr. Reynolds can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically what item 2 says is that there needs to be a plan for what is going to happen to that part of Bricker Road, and the staff ultimately needs to make that approval of that plan. From our standpoint, it's really whatever the staff wants. So that item should not hold up our approval for phase 1. It should not hold up entering the parish right away. It shouldn't hold up any of those other items. That is an item that is in the future and the back end of this project.
That being said, I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve item 3. Please vote.
Mr. Smale? The motion to approve failed.
Okay. So the motion failed, and Paul, you have the right to take it to the council, so, all right. All right, the next item under minor subdivisions is item 4. Case numbers 2023-3269-MSP, minor subdivision of parcel D into parcels D1 and D2. Owner and representative is Michael W. and Mary S. Anderson. Surveyors, Land Surveying LLC. Parish Council District Representatives, Honorable Cheryl Tanner. General location, the property is located on the east side of Allen Road and on the south side of Anderson Alley, Abita Springs, Ward 10, District 6. Staff?
The applicant is requesting to create 2 parcels from parcel D. The minor subdivision request requires a public hearing due to the fact that parcel D1 does not meet the minimum lot width of 150 feet required under the A2 Suburban District and requiring a waiver from the Planning Commission. And also, as part of the requirements, served to the passage will have to be provided to parcel D2, which is going to be either from Allen Road or from the Anderson Alley.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, sir, and you are?
Good evening, I'm Mike Anderson, 74414 Allen Road, Covington, 70435.
Okay.
If anyone has any questions, I can answer it. A little small, but it's the piece that's left, 11.64. 6.29 in the front is where my home is located. And this is the 5.35 that is in the rear that we're breaking off.
Okay,
And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you guys.
all right.
And I thank y'all for your time as well.
Okay, let's see if anyone else wishes to speak for or against. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Seeger.
Approve with waiver.
Motion by Commissioner Seeger to approve with waivers. Commissioner Ress.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ress. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve with waivers carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your service to the public, and thank you for your time, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you. All right, item 5. Case is 2023-3278-MSP, minor subdivision of parcel 5A3 into parcels 5A3-1 and 5A3-2. Owner and representative is Briggs Oshner LLC, David G. Briggs Jr. Surveyor is Randall W. Brown and Associates Incorporated. Parish Council District Representatives, Honorable Marty Dean. General location, the property is located on the north side of Watercross Parkway, east of Oshner Boulevard, Covington, Ward 1, District 1. Staff?
The applicant is requesting to create 2 parcels from parcel 5A3. The minor subdivision request requires a public hearing due to parcel 5A3 was previously part of a minor subdivision approved in April 2013.
Okay. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, Paul Marone on behalf of Mr. Briggs and Briggs Oshner LLC. This is a PBC1 parcel, and we have a doctor's group that is looking to construct a medical facility on 2 acres. So the purpose of our request is to create that parcel for them. And our remaining parcel will still be 1 acre, which is meets the minimum requirements for the PBC1. Be happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners may have, but we would ask that our request be approved so that we can create the parcel for the sale to the doctor group.
Thank you, sir. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
Approve.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner Truxillo.
I second.
Second by Commissioner Truxillo. Commissioner Ress.
Question for staff. Narrowing that lot down, will they be able to keep meet all the requirements, only because it abuts the subdivision right behind it there, will they be able to have the distance they need from the building and barrier, you know? they can have
Definitely, we've
no problem
already
there?
started looking into that, so yes, they will be able to meet all the required setback and green space
Great.
requirements.
Thank you. That's the words I was looking for.
All right. All right, I don't see anyone else in the queue. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Oh, wait. Tom, did you have something?
No waivers.
No waivers on that one.
Mr. Russ, McInnes, Truxillo. It's not showing any votes, okay. Yes, Truxillo's not showing, Troncoso. And Hernandez, there he goes, okay.
All right.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right, the next item is item 6, case number is 2023-3282-MSP, minor subdivision of a 5-acre parcel into parcels A and B. Owner and representative is Robert G. Thigpen. Surveyor is Land Surveying LLC. Parish Council District Representative is Honorable Martha Casabon. General location, the property is located on the east side of Taylor Road, north of US Highway 190, Covington, Ward 1, District 3. Staff?
The minor subdivision request requires a public hearing due to parcels A and B do not have parish road frontage and are proposed to be created off of a private road, Taylor Road, requiring a waiver from the Planning Commission. Parcels A and B are proposed to be accessed from a private road which already exceeds the maximum allowable number of 5 parcels off of a private road, requiring a waiver from the Planning Commission. The minor subdivision shall conform to the subdivision drainage requirements, including engineering, prepared drainage plan, hydraulic analysis, and on-site detention pond, or requiring a waiver from the Planning Commission. Parcels A and B are proposed to be accessed via a private road, requiring a waiver of Section 125-189, the minimum construction standards from a private road by the Planning Commission. And the request shall be subject to the above requested waivers and also to item 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, and you are?
Good evening. Taylor Thigpen, 73149 Taylor Road, and I'm just here for any questions y'all might have.
Okay. All right, anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner McInnes.
I'm familiar with this road, and it seems substantial enough to support what they're planning to do. So I move to approve with the waivers needed.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner McInnes to approve with the waivers. Commissioner Seeger.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Seeger. Commissioner Truxillo.
I'm looking on this plot, and it looks like there's a driveway that intersects it on the top.
It's an existing driveway, and the parcel in question is currently 5 acres, so they requested a zoning change that was approved by the zoning commission a few months ago. And now they're requesting to subdivide that 5-acre parcel into a 2-acre and a 3-acre parcel. As one of the items that I added to the staff report is that all the owners along that road signed a maintenance agreement, and they have no objection of the requested minor subdivision.
Okay, so the people won't lose access to that driveway?
No.
they're not losing access to the driveway. They're all in favor of to continue the maintenance of the driveway and to continue for the road to remain in the same.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Troncoso.
I don't know if I heard all of what you said, Helen, so this may be redundant. What's the ownership of the underlying ownership of the Taylor Road? All the way to Highway 190? Who owns it?
It is owned by, it was owned at one time by my great-grandpa, the whole parcel, and then as time went on, it got subdivided between, all of the family, his grandchildren, and then their grandchildren, and then now to me.
And is there agreements of access granted to each adjoining property along the road?
Yes, yeah, we filled out a maintenance agreement, as everybody that lives there to fill that out. We got that turned into y'all, everybody saying that we would maintain everything, and
And it was
everybody
fully recorded?
Yeah. I
Everything is
submitted-
documented relative to the road?
Yeah, this is a little bit of an unusual situation. Here we have the owners came forward, and they're requesting that waiver. It's uncommon, but we have a recorded document with all the property owners being in agreement of that request.
From a standard standpoint, it's a private road, but, and I believe it, what is it, 35 feet? Is the road 35 feet?
Oh, no, it's way longer than 35 feet.
It's
Yeah,
bigger?
they're requesting a waiver of the minimum requirements. While it may be wider, normally we allow a maximum of 5 parcels off of a private road. But in this case, they're asking to go to, if I'm not mistaken, 6 or 7. While it is a request for a waiver, all the property owners are in agreement.
Has there been any maintenance issues between the property owners relative to that road at all?
No.
Have you done maintenance on the road?
Yeah, I mean, we all participate in maintenance on the road, yeah. Everybody that lives back there, everybody kind of pitches in, and we just all maintain the property, whether it's grass or the road or anything like that, yeah.
Do you have an annual assessment or fee, or just as it comes about?
Oh, no, it's just whenever it is.
Whenever
yeah, no,
you
we
need
don't-
to
we
do
don't- we don't-
something.
Yeah, whenever something needs to be done, we just, we do it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Please vote.
With waivers, correct? The motion to approve with waivers carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, next item is item 7, case is 2023-3290-MSP, minor subdivision of 43.24 acres into lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Owner and representative, The Fences LLC, Donald Jenkins and David Glass. Surveyors Kelly McHugh and Associates Incorporated. Parish Council District Representative Honorable Martha Casabon. General location, the property is located on the west side of Louisiana Highway 25, north of Lake Ramsey Road, Covington, Ward 3, District 3. Staff?
The applicant is requesting to create 5 lots from 43.24 acres. The minor subdivision request requires a public hearing due to Lot 1 does not meet the minimum lot width of 150 feet required under the A2 Suburban District and requiring a waiver from the Planning Commission. The property is proposed to be subdivided into 5 lots and accessed from a proposed 35-foot private drive. The proposed name of the 35-foot private drive is proposed to be named Ranchero Road, has been submitted and approved by the St. Tammany Parish Communication District and requiring approval from the Planning Commission. And here we're requesting a waiver to construct the 35-foot access drive and the required drainage prior to building permit being issued on lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the request shall be subject to item 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Thank you. Mr. Morone.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone on behalf of the Fences LLC and Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Glass, who are the owners of the Fences LLC. As you'll see, we're proposing to create 5 lots, all of which are very large. The smallest of the lots is 8 acres in size. We are requesting 2 waivers. The first is to the amount of frontage on Lot 1. If you will look at the resub map, you will see that the configuration of this parcel is such that the only frontage we have is that 101 feet. We only barely touch the corner of this property to Highway 21, so we don't have any additional frontage there. However, we do still have ample room for our 35-foot road, which is in accordance with your requirements, and we're maintaining very low density with the large parcels that you see here. All of the other staff comments we are in full accord with, and we will comply with all of those. So we would ask for your consideration of the re-subdivision with the waiver on the lot frontage, and also the waiver on the timing for the construction of the 35-foot roadway and the drainage, so that we might do that after the plat is recorded, but before the building permits are done. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners may have with regards to any of these items. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morone. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
I just had a, excuse me, had a question for staff. Helen, can you just explain the 150-foot frontage? That's it's a road frontage requirement?
Yes, that's correct. Under the A2 Suburban District, the minimum lot width is 150 feet. In this case, you have 101 feet. This is just the way the property is configured. It's not like if they're creating this in particular, that's just the frontage that is currently left for that particular parcel.
Right, I understand. Okay. I don't have a problem with it. I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner McInnes.
I have a question for staff. It's similar to the one we just approved, but these lots seem really large. If they wanted to subdivide down the road, would a 35-foot road be sufficient, or 35-foot right-of-way?
Well, it would have to go through the full subdivision process. The road would have to be potentially enlarged, and it would have to be paved as well.
Okay. Then I'll second the motion.
With waivers?
With waivers? Yeah, and your motion was with waivers too? Yeah, okay. Commissioner Troncoso.
What type of road's gonna be built there? Is it a gravel road, or is it gonna be improved?
It's going to be a gravel road. If you want to take a look at your staff report on the second page, number 4, items A, B, C, D, E, and F, it tells you basically what the requirements are, which is a 35-foot wide road, a 20-foot driving surface. You have the 5.5-foot shoulders on each side, and it can be gravel or aggregate material. So the ditches have to be provided and plans have to be submitted to the engineering department. It has to be inspected, just like it would be for a regular parish road.
It would be gravel, Mr. Troncoso.
See, it's gonna be gravel?
Yes, sir.
Is there a provision in, I haven't read our Unified Development Code as of yet, totally, but I have a question relative to Highway 25 is a very active road and a lot of speeding cars, a lot of high speed going on there. With a gravel road connecting to it, is there no requirement to create a 10-foot or 15-foot apron there so that the gravel doesn't meander onto the road, creating potential hazards? So the question is there anything relative to that? Is that any kind of standard or requirement or nice to do?
It's a two-part answer for you, specifically on this case because of where it's connecting, that being Highway 25. This would require a DOT driveway permit. I believe there's already an existing connection to this road right now. And when the state permits things, they do require hard surface up to their right-of-way lines, and then past the right-of-way, you can transition back down to aggregate or whatever it may be. Very similar to the state's requirements, and I know you said you haven't read the new development code. There is a provision in the rewrite that speaks to this very similar situation for parish roads. So at this current time, there is not one, but we request it pretty frequently at the parish. But in the new rewrite, subject to it passing as written, there will be a provision very similar to what the state requires on state right-of-ways.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second with waiver. Please vote.
The motion to approve with both waivers carries.
All right, we go to item 8, cases 2023-3303-MSP, minor subdivision of parcel B1 into parcels B1A and B1B. Owner and representative is Kimberly H. Gerald. Surveyor is Land Surveying LLC. Parish Council District Representatives, Honorable Martha Casabon. General location, the property is located on the east side of Henderson Road, south of Gottschall Road, Covington, Ward 1, District 3. Staff?
The applicant is requesting to create two parcels from parcel B-1. The minor subdivision request requires a public hearing due to parcel B-1 was previously part of a minor subdivision approved in October 2022, and parcel B-1A does not meet the minimum lot width of 150 feet required under the A2 Suburban District and requiring a waiver from the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. And you are?
I'm Kimberly H. Gerald. I've been before y'all before, so hopefully this will be the last time. It'll wrap it up.
Okay.
So if y'all have any questions, I'd just request approval of these two parcels with a waiver on B-1A.
All right. Let's see if anybody else in the audience wishes to speak either for or against on this. I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner McInnes.
I remember going down that road in October, and there are a number of smaller lots, so it seems like carving off a 1 acre lot is, would fit the area. I also looked up the parcels on the tax rolls, and there's a number of small lots. So I've moved to approve.
Motion by Commissioner McInnes to approve.
With the waiver?
Commissioner Truxillo.
With waiver.
With waivers, okay?
I second with waiver.
Okay, thank you. I've got a question. If I'm looking at the plat right, the Henderson Road stops before it gets to parcel B2, is that correct?
No, they have a servitude of passage to get to the back.
Say again, Helen?
There is a servitude of passage to get to the back.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we have a motion and a second with waivers. Please vote.
The motion to approve with waivers carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, we go to re-subdivision review. Cases, item 9, 2023-3281-MRP. It's a re-subdivision of lots 306A, square 32 into lots 306A-1 and 306-A2, Jafuncta Club Estates. Owner and representative is John J. and Susan B. Graham. Surveyors Kelly J. McEwen Associates. Parish Council District Representative is Marty Dean. General location, the property is located on the southeast corner of Oaklawn Drive and Mistletoe Drive, Covington, Ward 1, District 1. Staff?
The owner is requesting to create 2 lots from Lot 306-A. The public hearing is required considering that, as stated in the restrictive covenants of the approved plat, no lots shall be further re-subdivided without approval from the Planning Commission. And it should be subject to item 1. If you take a look at the survey here, it shows a gravel path that is over the property line. It will have to be moved entirely on Lot 306-A2.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Morone?
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Paul Marone again, this time on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Graham. This request is to re-subdivide this parcel, really to reestablish the lot lines that existed when Chifuncta was originally platted. The Grahams bought 2 lots, 306 and 307. In the 80s, they were going to build an addition onto the home that was there, which they did. That addition, while it met the parish setbacks, it did not meet the Chifuncta setbacks at the time. As a result, they combined the lots. Fast forward now 40 years, the Grahams are older, and they don't need that additional vacant land anymore. And so they would like to reestablish that lot line. We have gone to Chifuncta Club Estates. They have approved the fact that the existing home encroaches into their setbacks, still meets the parish setbacks. And they recognize and have supported this request and are supportive of this request. There's a letter in the file to that extent. So we would ask that we be allowed to recreate the lot lines that existed prior. The lot sizes are consistent with the other lots in Chifuncta because they were created that size at the time that Chifuncta was created. With regard to the one staff comment, that gravel area is just a walkway. It's not a driveway or anything like that. And in fact, the Grahams have already removed that encroachment so that it no longer bleeds over onto the adjacent parcel if that parcel is created by this re-subdivision. So I appreciate your consideration of our request to reestablish these lot lines that existed prior. If there are any questions of me, I'd be happy to try to answer them at the appropriate time. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morone. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this? Seeing no one, I will close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Rest.
Yeah, move to approve with staff comment.
All right, motion by Commissioner Rest to approve with staff comments. Commissioner Truxillo.
I second.
Second by Commissioner Truxillo. Please vote.
The motion to approve his staff comments carries.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to item 10. Case is 2023-3287-MRP, re-subdivision of Lot 8, Phase 1C, and a portion of proposed Phase 2 into Lot 8A, Phase 1C, Seymour Myers Industrial Park. Owner and representative is Squunch LLC, Greg Mann and Seymour Ventures LLC, Robert G. Myers. Surveyor is the Duplantis Design Group PC, Dennis L. Gowan PLS. Parish Council District Representative, Honorable Marty Dean. General location, the property is located at the end of Seymour Myers Boulevard, west of Louisiana Highway 1077, south of I-12, Madisonville, Ward 1, District 1. Staff?
The owner is requesting to create 1 lot from Lot 8 and a portion of proposed Phase 2. The public hearing is required considering that, as stated in the restrictive covenants of the approved plat, no lot shall be further re-subdivided without approval from the Planning Commission.
Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm. I represent the current owner, which is the Myers of Seymour Myers family at large, and also the prospective purchaser, which is Squunch LLC. As staff has indicated, this re-subdivision request will allow Lot 8 to be enlarged by approximately 2 acres. Lot 8 is currently the home of Smoke Tree Landscape Business. So this will give them an opportunity to expand their business. So we would appreciate your approval of this free subdivision request as shown on the plat. If any of you have any questions or concerns, I'll be glad to address them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shane. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
Jeff, I wouldn't ask any questions because it's painful to hear you speak, so I motion to approve.
Thanks.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner Truxillo.
You don't want to ask him any questions? Oh, I second.
Second by Commissioner Truxillo.
Hope that holds all night.
Pardon? Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
All right, we'll go to item 11. Case is 2023-3292 MRP, re-subdivision of lot 608 and 609 into lot 608A, Phase 2, Chifuncta Club Estates. Owner and representative is Matthew C. and Sandra J. Hunt. Surveyors Randall W. Brown and Associates Incorporated. Parish Council District Representative is Marty Dean. General location, the property is located at the east end of Wax Myrtle Lane, south of Hummingbird Road, Covington, Ward 1, District 1. Staff?
The owner is requesting to create one lot from lots 608 and 609. The public hearing is required considering that, as stated in the restrictive covenants of the approved plat, no lot shall be further re-subdivided without approval from the Planning Commission.
All right, thank you.
Kind of ditto from the above, except this is obviously combining two lots into one. As you can see on the aerial, it really creates an incredible premier lot on the golf course. I might add that Chifuncta Club has already approved the proposed re-subdivision as it relates to their criteria, and certainly contingent upon your recommendation and approval this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shane. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Smale.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Smale to approve. Commissioner Troncoso.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Troncoso. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
All right, well, we'll go all the way down to item 14. Case is 2023-3248, PP View Carre subdivision, developer owners, Allstate Financial Company, engineer surveyors, Kelly McHugh and Associates, Parish Council District Representatives, Honorable Marty Dane. General location, the property is located on the south and west sides of Bricker Road, east of Louisiana Highway 1085, north of Louisiana Highway 21, Ward 1, District 1. It was postponed at the March 8th, 2023 meeting for 1 month. Staff?
Yes, sir. The preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office, and an inspection was made of the site on March 30th, 2023. Preliminary approval of this case shall be subject to developer complying with comments 1 and 2 in the informational items below, and no work order to be issued until all requirements and all items are satisfactorily completed and submitted. Additionally, a funded maintenance obligation in the amount of $20,000 is required in accordance with St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances. And lastly, a performance obligation in the amount of $275,000 will be required to ensure the construction of the required Bricker Road raising associated with the Timber Branch crossing. Since staff has not received any finalized plans or cost estimates associated with this work, this obligation was based on cost estimates associated with a similar road raising projects in St. Tammany Parish. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Paul Marone on behalf of Allstate Financial Company. The preliminary plat and plans that you see before you are consistent with our PUD plan for this particular parcel. We have performed the drainage hydrology analysis where we're required to demonstrate that we have a 25% reduction on the 100-year storm event. We not only meet that, but we exceed those minimum requirements of the parish. Our reduction is between 44 and 83% on the 10, 25, 50, and 100-year storm events. If you look at your plan, you will see that we have a very large detention pond down along the Timber Branch. It's about 17 acres, and that will be a dry pond. So not only will that pond allow us to meet and exceed the retention requirements of the parish, but because of its location, will always also provide additional floodplain storage, about 20 acre feet of additional floodplain storage to the area. As required, we performed a traffic study. As you're aware from the earlier case, that traffic study requires us to construct turning lanes on Highway 1085, which we are ready and able to do. That study required that we evaluate 11 different intersections, which were chosen by the staff. We studied those intersections, and each of those intersections continue to function at or above acceptable levels under your ordinances with this project and with a growth factor in excess of what the parish requires. We are also mindful of the issue on Bricker Road that we talked about earlier. We are prepared to do the work necessary to raise Bricker Road in accordance with staff's ultimately approving that plan. We will be working with them on that plan to see what it will take to do that. As I said, the first phase of this project accesses directly off of Highway 1085. We would not make that connection to Bricker Road until phase 2, which again would be quite some time in the distant future. So we'll have the ability to address that issue during that time frame. As with any subdivision of this type, in particular any PUD, central utilities are required. We will not have a central treatment facility on site. We will be tying in and extending lines so that we can have the effluent from this project treated at the existing Utilities Inc. facility, which is down by Interstate 12. We will be constructing a new water well. There is water in the area, but this new well will allow those lines to be looped. So that will provide some redundancy to the system, which will benefit not only this development, but will also benefit anybody else that's on that water system, which is basically all of the developments in the area. With regards to those turning lanes, I should point out that during the zoning process, we were asked by the neighborhood across the street to try to align those turning lanes with their entrance. They're a smaller subdivision, Weston Glen, but they asked that we try to align it so they would have the benefit of those turn lanes as well. We were able to do that. We're able to achieve that. So that is the location of those turn lanes as proposed on our plans. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. I would point out that the item 1 with regards to the comments of staff from April 4th, we have responded to all of those to the best of our knowledge, and based on our discussions, our engineers' discussions with the parish engineers, we believe we've addressed all of those. We don't believe that there are any outstanding. Most of those comments on that April 4th were, I don't want to call them non-substantive, but they wanted some adjustments to the plat, certain language to the plat, things of that nature. All of that has been done and all of that has been approved. So at this point, to the best of our knowledge, there is nothing more that we need to do with these plans to be in compliance with the ordinances of St. Tammany Parish, which is our charge this evening. You know, the charge this evening is not whether or not this is a good or bad development. The development has been approved through the zoning phase, so we're here to demonstrate to the staff, to the public, and to the commission that we are in compliance with your ordinances as it relates to preliminary approval, and we think we've done that. So I thank you for your consideration. I'll be happy to answer any questions at the appropriate time that any of the commissioners might have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Rowan. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak in favor of this? I have several cards that are wishing to speak and they're against. Nancy Wagner?
Would you pull mine last?
Pardon?
Would you pull mine last, please?
All right, Arnold Kirschman? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Arnold Kirschman. I live at 16473 Bricker Road, right across from where the development is going. First, I encourage you all to be as conservative and as careful as possible, and as you all have said, a lot of things are premature. With the amount of flooding and traffic problems that St. Tammany is already experiencing, I think it's very important that we are doing the studies and the due diligence that we have to do to protect the quality of life. As Mr. Marone stated, I have to disagree and say that some of the statements he has made are not correct. Certainly, the retention pond is not a dry pond. If you pull the records from the hearings with the council, there's no way they can keep it dry. It's going to be primarily filled most of the time because it is tied into Timber Creek and the Tchefuncte and will raise and lower with that water line. Many of the other statements, again, are inconsistent with what the engineers and the experts have already verified to the council. The main thing that we're concerned about living on Bricker Road is that, again, we believe this is not in the best interest for the neighborhood and the residents that have been there, and again, it's premature. The subdivision has not received all of the permits to even move ahead from the Corps of Engineers or some of the federal permits that need to be addressed. In addition, the amount of traffic that was done, or the traffic study that was done during a period when school was out, and certainly before all of this development is happening on 1085. So again, the prudent thing would be to really look down the line for the next 5 years or longer, hopefully, and really see what the development is and what the traffic needs are. In addition, when you talk about Bricker Road, which is where we live, right now it's a very narrow road. It floods all the time, as they have admitted. And there are hundreds of homes, no, I don't know the exact amount, but there are many, many homes that are being added in Terabella right now that open up, that exit onto Bricker Road. And we're already experienced those traffic problems. And as you know, there's only 2 exits from Bricker Road, one onto 1085, which is already horrendous, and the second one, which may be even more dangerous, is coming out onto 21, Highway 21 from Murphy Road. That's no light, no no controls at all. So again, we are asking you to deny this or postpone it until further studies can be done and make sure that it is in the best interest of everyone. And one thing they are saying is that if they do expand Bricker Road, they're talking about expanding it onto the residents that have been living there instead of all of the undeveloped land on the inside of Bricker Road where there's no conflicts, where you don't have to move structures that we've already built, fences, et cetera, et cetera. But thank you for hearing me, and I trust that you all will make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Hazel Piazza? You've got about 5 minutes.
To the commissioners, please. My name is Hazel Piazza. I'm a resident of Bricker Road and have been for 41 years. My concern is multiple-fold with this development, but primarily what I'd like to call to your attention today is that when they applied for their zoning approval, they said that all water and sewer facilities were going to be provided off-site by Utilities, Inc. of Louisiana. And you have a map there that they submitted for their approval for zoning, and see this large area of green space. Most of that is in flood zone A. This is where I live. My gate is 5 feet tall, and in the 2016 flood, you couldn't tell I even had a gate. I was in my property for 3 days. I could not get out with the amount of flooding there. What they have proposed to do is to take and build a well. You see in the schematic that was in your packet that they are removing the vast majority of that green space in order to put the well. They are removing the buffer along the road. All of that helps trap rainwater and prevent runoff, which is going to go sheeting across my property and further complicating all the flooding issues. Not to mention, quite an ugly thing, a nuisance to have a massive well when there is enough room in that green space for them to do that in the interior and not destroy all of the green space along Bricker Road where we have lived for many decades. The other thing is that in this other packet, they were not supposed to be able to even come before this commission, which for preliminary approval. October 18th of 2021, concerning the space on Bricker Road, because that bridge is impassable. There is no way to get out except on the west end. Basically, it states this will be required as part of the developer's submittal for preliminary subdivision approval, which is what we're here for today. If you will look at the pictures, that is the picture of the amount of water in the area that we are discussing that he said they're going to get to. This was in 2021. I spoke to the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries this morning. They still have not even applied for a permit to do the work that is going to be required there. They have started laying down pipe for a water line, and that work was stopped because they did not have the proper permits from the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. So it seems that it's kind of premature to give them approval to go ahead with that when there's a lot of evidence to indicate that there could be improvements made and that the green space does not have to be destroyed in order for them to put a well when they had already said that they had enough storage with the utility company that they all the utilities were going to be off-site, is what was claimed initially. And in the staff comments, it even states that the Utilities Inc. has stated that capacity for this development is sufficient, and the developer will simply be required to extend the existing water and sewer force main to the subject development site. I don't think that we have to destroy the green space along the road where we live when there's ample place to put this in the interior. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I have a card on Rachel Van Horsey.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Rachel Van Voorhees, 16473 Bricker Road. I just want to concur with everything that my neighbors have said, but I also want to reiterate. I sent a letter into you all saying if the land is going to be taken, invariably, if you move forward with this project, which I hope you will wait and defer till you have a much more comprehensive plan for this thing, Bricker Road will have to be expanded, and it has come up before, and I have asked before that it be required that the expansion come from the developer's side of the road. It seems only fair for what's going on here. And you keep talking about...
You can
I just finish
continue,
my...
but the time will come out of your rebuttal.
I'll just be really fast, which is to say, you keep talking about the bridge at Timber Branch, but I want to reiterate that it's all of Bricker Road, particularly at our house, that gets terrible flooding. It's not just that bridge there, it's the entire road. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Peggy Miranda? Pardon me? I still didn't hear you.
Should we wait for rebuttal?
Well, we're going to go into rebuttal now. You've got 5 minutes rebuttal. Okay? Paul, you want to speak on your rebuttal right now?
A few comments to Mr. Kirschman and to Hazel. First, again, I mean, our obligations here at preliminary is not to have everybody decide that they like our project or approve our project. I mean, our obligation is to meet your ordinances. That is the obligation at preliminary. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about traffic and drainage. You have specific ordinances that require specific studies. We have performed those studies, both traffic and drainage, and we are compliant with those studies. There is nothing premature about approving a plan that is compliant with your ordinances. With regards to the pond, with all due respect to Mr. Kirschman, it is a dry pond. And I'm not sure, perhaps he's confused because some of the modeling we did for the pond was with the tailwater condition, which showed water backing up from the Chifuncta or the creek into the pond, which is a more conservative and safer approach to do that. But the pond is dry. And if Mr. Reynolds sees it differently on our plans, then he can correct me, but that is a dry plan, dry pond. With regards to the idea that, well, you know, there needs to be a core permit or there needs to be a scenic river permit. Yes, any and all state or federal permits that are required for the construction of this project need to be procured and in place before we can go to work. But there is no requirement that those permits be in place before we get preliminary approval from this commission and from the parish. In fact, some of those other agencies prefer to know that you have local approval before you have state or federal approval. So Mr. Reynolds mentioned a while ago that there are a number of things that have to come together to be able to do one of these projects. It would be arbitrary in my mind when the ordinance do not provide it to say, well, we want you to have scenic rivers first, we want you to have the core second, and then come back to us. That's simply not what the ordinances say. And so I urge you to recognize that all of those have to be in place before we can go to work. but the timing of each is left to the discretion of the parties that are pursuing the permit. With regards to Hazel's comments about the well site that is on the plans is in accordance with our PUD approval. That is where the PUD has it, and that is where we intend to construct it. Now, does that mean that we're not going to have landscapes and buffers and things along the outside? No, of course we're going to do that. The parish requires that. We're not asking for a waiver of any of that. The utility company decided that they wanted, and for the betterment of not just this development, but their entire system and everybody that it services, that we put this additional well in at our cost, which we're going to do. This is not a sewer plant. It does not generate smells. It does not generate loud noises. It is a benign use, and it is in accordance with our PUD plan that was approved. With regards to Bricker Road, we understand that that is something that we will have to work out with the parish on what they want to have done there. At this point, I'm not so sure that Bricker Road gets widened. I've mentioned a couple of times this stretch of Bricker Road needs to be elevated. It's low, right? And so it may be a bridge. At this point, I'm not certain that we're going to extend beyond the existing right-of-way. Certainly, I don't know that we're going to take property from the adjacent property owners. We can't take property from the adjacent property owners. We don't have that authority. The parish has that authority through eminent domain, but the private sector does not. So if we need right-of-way, then either we're going to have to provide it on our side of the roadway, or the parish is going to have to procure it, or a neighbor is going to have to willingly dedicate it. But we don't have the ability to wave a wand and say we're going to take 15 feet off of our neighbor's property. That's outside of our scope. That's something we can't do and we can't control. So again, we are here tonight, and I would submit to you that we are not premature. At this point, we are not aware of any requirements that the parish has that we have not met for preliminary approval. And again, if I'm mistaken about that, then I certainly will stand corrected. But if there is anything, it has got to be minimal and minor. And certainly we have a punch list, if you will, that is far shorter than many preliminaries you've seen, and we urge you to grant the approval this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Peggy Miranda.
Hi, how are y'all? I come here just as a concerned citizen. I live on Bricker Road, and we do already have a lot of flooding that happens. And I know y'all hear flooding and traffic, but you know what? It's real. It's very real. And when all this comes in, unless they've done their work properly, we're going to have to suffer the consequence of things like that. So right now he's saying, and he has a very golden tongue. This man speaks so eloquently. But the truth is that what he says, some of it is not accurate. Like he's saying, well, we're not going to take from our neighbor's side. We're going to take that 15 feet from our side. Well, how does he do that when he already has laid all the pipe out for the water and has put fire hydrants every 30 yards or so? There's fire hydrants. How are you going to put a road on your side when there's fire hydrants every so often? I don't understand it. I want to defer to people who have studied this much more than me, but I do want to come to you with a deep concern for our homes flooding again and our quality of life being smashed by something that is not ready to be approved. Thanks.
All right, Nancy Wagner. You got 3 minutes and 56 seconds.
Yep. Well, you've heard from everybody who's here about this project, and I would urge you to just deeply consider that there's no need to rush with any sort of approval at this point. As the staff report says, they need to evaluate that low portion of Bricker Road. That's going to take some time. That's why when I spoke on the other item, I said it was premature. And in terms of accessing the project only from Bootlegger, there's already been cuts made into the property from Bricker Road, and as I say, laying pipes and putting in fire hydrants on Bricker Road. So that area needs to be studied, and I think you can talk about complying with the ordinances, but the staff report speaks to that very clearly, that needs to be studied before moving forward. And I would just urge you to consider that it might not be the law right now in the St. Tammany Parish that you have to have your 404 federal permits and your scenic rivers, but there was a unanimous vote of the parish council in around 2000. Well, it's when Pat Brister was parish president. They trumpeted an ordinance they passed requiring all permits to be in hand before beginning any subdivision. And somehow that disappeared when the UDC was rewritten the last time. And that's a shame, because all those approvals should be in hand. And the one little portion of Timber Branch, which is part of the now called Vucare, that did receive part of a wetlands permit, that's in litigation in federal court. So there's plenty of time. There hasn't even been an application filed with the Army Corps of Engineers for this area. That's a long, long process. So why not study the road? Why not see, does it need to be elevated? Would that be best for everybody? There's been a lot of progress made, I would say, in the last few years in the parish on trying to look at situations and plan them, as opposed to one landowner says, I want to do this, and so everything gets done for that to happen. Let's take the approach and take the time. I mean, frankly, if I had been this applicant, I would have asked for it to be postponed, the way the Maison Villages did, so there could be more time. We have remained open to having community meetings, and this applicant has refused to have a community meeting. They had a meeting with the Weston Glen, just a few of the Weston Glen people, and they were like, oh, well, we'll give you a turn lane. So guess what? All the people in Weston Glen were like, okay, we won't complain anymore. But that's not a community meeting when you go to one group and go to another group and say something different. So thank you all for your service.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak against? You're in the rebuttal section, you got a minute left. All right, I'm gonna close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Do I have any commissioners that wish to speak? Commissioner Crawford.
I'll start off. So I have a question. I don't know if this would be for staff or for Paul, but how much of this property is wetlands at this point? Paul, you want to answer that?
Yes, I think I can answer that. Give me just a minute. I know that I thought I made a note of it. So of the entire site, which is more than just the boundaries of the PUD, but the entire property, which included some of the commercial and so forth, which I think is about 180 acres total, about 41% of the site was jurisdictional wetlands. What's interesting is all of those wetlands are outside of the floodplain. You would think that the wetlands would be down along the creek, but in this instance, that is not the case. The wetlands are on the higher ground because the higher ground is very flat. So to answer your question, it's about 41% all out of the floodplain and on the higher ground.
Okay, so 41% of the total project. Now, just as a guess, how much of that do you think is part of this neighborhood? Is it half of that 41%, or is it the bulk of it? Just a guesstimate.
Let me look and see if I have.
Let's ask staff. Do you have a more definitive answer?
Can correct me if I'm mistaken, but I thought I had it closer in hand than Mr. Reynolds, but certainly.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time for me, sir?
I was curious as to what percentage of the PUD that we're looking at is deemed wetlands at this point.
Oh, I do not have that as quickly as you might have that. I can look for you right now as well. But no, sir, I don't have that in my staff report right now.
And if somebody knows if it's 10%, 20%, 30%, that's fine.
Okay, I think I have the information for you. Sorry. So it's 60 within the PUD itself, not the entire property.
Right.
It is 41%. That is about 63 acres.
Okay.
Excuse me, 65 acres.
Okay. So 65 acres, and and I don't know, what's our total acreage here?
158, 157.
Okay. So that's deemed as wetlands, okay.
That's correct.
Now, you do not have a wetlands core permit as yet, nor an application filed?
That's not accurate. We do have a wetlands permit on Phase 1. That wetlands permit was challenged in court. The challengers lost on a motion for summary judgment, and that issue is now on appeal to the appeals court. So when they say we don't have a permit, we do have a permit on Phase 1. It is subject to litigation, which in the trial court it has been dismissed. That dismissal is on appeal. We do not have a permit for Phase 2 at this time, but our intent is to phase it, so we're not intending to construct Phase 2 anytime soon.
Okay. My concern there, obviously, we've seen some of the pictures, we have flooding and so on. The PUD being 41% wetlands and no core determination as yet, that seems to me like things could possibly change in the future. Another question, Paul, is the pond that you were talking about, is it already existing as part of the timber branch or partially existing?
No, it will need to be constructed.
It will be, okay.
That's correct.
Because it looked like there was a little pond as part of the branch in the trees.
There is a small pond that is already in place adjacent to the branch. That is not part of our drainage facility.
Okay. It looked like that's
Correct.
where your pond was going to be, but that's not it. Okay.
There is one there, but that's a pre-existing pond from before my clients acquired, not part of our retention.
Okay. All right. That's all I had for now. I see some other commissioners in the queue, so.
Commissioner Truxillo.
Bricker Road. I've traveled Bricker Road many times, and yes, it does flood. My concern is if you raise Bricker Road and does the development have subsurface drainage or ditches?
It'll have subsurface drainage.
Okay. But if you raise Bricker Road, the water has to go somewhere that's coming from the wetlands. Is that in your calculations?
Yes, all that would go into the pond. And that's part of the calculations that Mr. McHugh put together for our streets and roadways and so forth.
Okay, that's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Commissioner McInnes.
I just want to make a comment on the fact that, yes, you can have wetlands out of the floodplain, and it's fairly common in our flat southern part of the parish. You get in the soil types that we have that it, because it's flat, the water just kind of stays there, and it doesn't perk, and it creates the wetland soil and vegetation conditions. When you get near the creek, you have a slope, and it's often the slopes are non-wet because the water runs off more quickly. And the creek itself is not considered wetlands by the Corps. Water is not considered wet by the Corps. So just wanted to toss that out.
Commissioner Ress.
Yeah, I got a question for staff. So it sounds like Bricker Road, there's a lot of work that has to be done to figure out what we're going to do with it. I was reading some of the comments about elevated and different types of things, but so was the traffic study that was done for this done with Bricker Road accepting part of the traffic? Has there been a study done that only shows the first phase of development only and all of it coming out onto 1085, none of it going to Bricker Road?
Yes, sir. So the traffic study that was done in congruent with the PUD approval for this project, it did a traffic distribution for this site. I bring that up because 90% of the site was distributed to Bootlegger Road, 10% was distributed to Bricker Road. Bring that up because according to Mr. Marone, and as they've discussed, they're phasing this project, meaning that they're going to build west to east. So everything on the western side as we build east will have to go out to Bootlegger Road as it's its only exit, which was represented in the study for this development, 90% going to there. So the phases, the later phases, whether it be 2 or 6, or I forget exactly how they have it outlined. The plat says 1 through 6, but how they permit it may be different with the core. Bring that up to say, yes, by the time we get to the eastern side of it, when we make that connection, that should calculate the 10% that is connecting to the Bricker Road and connection, entrance, whatever you want to call it. So we did factor that in their phasing diagram. I assume that's why they are phasing it west to east and not east to west.
All right. The other question is, so you've looked at the retention pond. In your mind, under normal conditions, it's a dry pond. Is there any conditions where we have high water levels in the Lake Pontchartrain and Chafuncta rivers backed up that it becomes wet without any other rainfall?
So as a point of clarity on that matter, we had requested a response in our markup summary 4/4/23 was our April 4th. We issued a set of comments on the project, and we requested that they clarify and explain with a narrative including how the pond functions as a dry pond with a pond bottom elevation of 3 feet while having a tailwater of 7 feet, and the water from Timber Branch, we were concerned that the water from Timber Branch was going to fill up the dry pond, thus losing the storage capacity. Staff has not had time to review that, whatever response was given for that.
Okay, so the answer is you don't know right now. You haven't had a chance to review. You did?
No.
Okay.
And I mean.
So the other question.
Audience, so you might be able to provide some.
It's all right. You staff has not had a chance to review it yet, correct? Okay. The road widening issue seems to be a concern if in fact down the road we have to widen Bricker Road for some reason. Is there enough right-of-way on each side of the road that you would not have to do an eminent domain potentially from the owners? Because what would happen if you take it from the subdivision that's being proposed here, obviously their barriers are going to be shrunk, okay? And so when that would be decided is important, if there's any concerns about that. Have we studied that? Do we know the answer to that?
No, we do not have an answer to that, but I guess, if this were your typical parish project running in this fashion, for one, we wouldn't want to take property from both sides of the roadway as part of it. It's more property owners, more issues that can occur in the acquisition of property for the project. So it's, I guess, in the best interest of the project to skew the project to one side of the roadway. And again, if it was skewed towards the green space, it would be one property owner as opposed to multiple property owners on the other side.
But then the green space gets shrunk.
Yeah, and then the greens get
So
shrunk.
so if there's not an allowance for that up front, and that would be the direction you would typically want to go,
Yes,
which I understand
that would be a
that.
preferable direction to go on the project.
So that there's no real allowance in there in this design that allows for that expansion. Do we believe is there really much thought that this would get widened? Is it an inadequate road at this point? Other than the low spots, I mean?
Yes, sir. I'd bring up 2 points to that one. And I'm going to recall some of my memory from the PUD approval, that a lot of it was brought up with the elevation of the road, and that was the main concern issued at that time. Not saying that in sections of this road it shouldn't or couldn't be widened. I'm not discrediting that at all. I remember, to my recollection, is the elevation was a concern, and I can certainly go back and verify all of that information, and Mr. Marone may speak to it differently or be able to verify what I'm saying. I bring that up for 2 reasons. There's no plans right now to widen Bricker Road. That's why we have a performance obligation written into the staff report, and we have that comment into the staff report. The parish's main concern is the flooding of Bricker Road, which is what is spoke to in the staff report. Additionally, I believe most of these residents along Bricker Road are on the north side of the development. Any widening, raising, and everything would be done from entrance point towards Timber Branch, which is south. That is the concern of where we would be looking into doing that. Not saying that we wouldn't evaluate the entirety of Bricker Road. Please don't mistake me, but I think there's some discretion that needs to be given on where and what parts of Bricker Road are being evaluated, which is why we wrote the staff report comment like we did. There's a lot to be evaluated with there and what needs to be done there. As it relates to the width of Bricker Road, I took some measurements earlier today, and it does appear to be 20 to 18 foot in some areas from Timber Branch down. And when I say down, I mean towards the Bootlegger 21 intersection. I could not take measurements from Google Earth because it's tree coverage on the northern side of Bricker Road, but I have a feeling that is where it is the narrowest at about 18 feet. Additionally, you brought up a comment about how the traffic was distributed earlier. I think that plays an important role on right now is when we modeled this development, we don't have any traffic from the development going, let's say you're going east and you make a left onto Bricker Road to go back north. You really wouldn't do that leaving this development. You would take your main entrance in and out. Additionally, if you're trying to get to 21 or to Bootlegger Road, you would go right. So there should be very limited to no impact going left, if that makes sense for you. Going east, I make my left-hand turn to go back north. The study says, which is why it's a 90-10 split, I would use my boulevard that they're constructing through the Vucare subdivision. So we do try to factor those types of things in when we require improvements and studies, which is all of what number 2 speaks to. So there's a lot there that we can unpack, and I'm happy to answer any questions to it, but I don't know if this is the appropriate time to get into what we would factor into that, but there's a number of factors along Bricker Road.
No, it's most, everybody's got the same concerns of traffic and drainage. It's all across the parish, and we hear it at every one of these. And in the case of the lower Bricker Road area, for good reason, there's a lot of issues there. Bootlegger is continued to get busier and busier. Of course, it is a state road also, huh? 1080, it's 1085, right?
Depends on which portion of it, yes, sir. Some of it belongs to the parish. That would be the one I'm referring to as Bootlegger Road, AKA it used to be known as Highway 1085. But when you get to a certain spot, which is the intersection of 1077 and 1085, it goes back to state maintenance, more towards the western side. So there's
So
an
the
active
part
dedication.
in front of them is parish?
Yes, sir, which is why you heard earlier in the agenda, there was a request to enter the parish right-of-way
Yeah.
for Bootlegger Road because it's
Okay.
parish right-of-way,
All
yes,
right.
sir.
I
That
guess
was
I-
don't.
I mean, I hadn't really even picked up
It's not
on it, really.
1085
Yes.
anymore, even though people still call it 1085.
Yeah,
That was
okay.
donated through an act of dedication from the
All right.
state to the parish.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
You finished?
Now, I'm ready to talk again.
Commissioner Truxilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We heard a lot of opinions and for and against and everything, and we could talk about this the rest of the night. Robert's Rule of Law is saying that you got to make a motion to get the vote, to start the voting apparatus process. And it also states that you should make a positive motion, whether you want to vote for it or not. So I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Truxilla to approve. Commissioner Crawford.
I'll second the motion to get it on the table so it can be voted on, whether I'm in favor of it or not.
Okay. Commissioner Smale.
I just have a couple quick questions. Is this the same developer as Terabella? No. Did this get approved before the parish-wide moratorium? Yes. And do you plan on clear-cutting this property?
No, there is no intent to clear cut the property.
Okay.
Anything else, Chris?
No, sir, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we have Commissioner Seeger.
I move to postpone for 1 month to give the staff a chance to evaluate the data that was given to them.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Seeger to postpone for 1 month to give staff time to look at some of the numbers that they normally look at. Commissioner Truxilla.
Probably that's the best route to go because depending on the vote, could either kill it for a while or move it forward. So I I withdraw my motion, and I'll second Mr. Seeger's.
All right, you're wanting to withdraw your motion to approve? And second, the motion to postpone for 1 month. Okay, we have a motion to postpone for 1 month on the table right now, on the floor. Anyone else want to make a comment before I ask for a vote? Please vote.
The motion to postpone for 1 month carries.
Okay. Thank y'all.
Mr. Chair, can I make one comment, please?
Yeah, let me,
Ted, did you get a full staff report in our packet on this case?
You have the staff, yes, sir. There's a staff report in there, and it references the 2 comments. The comment number 1, it is not typical that we put the markup summaries in each one of them.
Those were the
We can-
only comments that you had, staff comments?
This, comment number 1 in the staff report tends to the markup summary that was issued on April 4th. That does have additional comments. Like Mr. Marone stated earlier, some of them are clerical, some of them are changed text, some of them are re-verify drainage study things. So in an effort to not burden with 30-some-odd comments or 10 comments, whatever it may be, that is how staff is drafting those staff reports right now. If you ever want to see the set of comments, we're more than happy to provide them at any time.
So this postponement for 1 month, we should be able to take into account your markup comments from the 4th and the responses to that, as well as the other things that have come in that Daniel was referring to.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, and that'll be included in the packet for next month.
Yes, sir. And if there's any additional comments, you'll see something very similar to comment number 1 that says, address the comments of markup summaries issued on May, insert date that we sent it out.
I think there were a lot of questions and a lot of unanswered things and information that staff didn't have at this point that we would expect to see next time if it's available. Okay?
Yes, sir.
okay. Thank y'all. We go to item 15. Cases 2023-3256-PP, Money Hill Subdivision, Phase 9A. Developer owner is Money Hill Plantation LLC. Engineer surveyors Kyle and Associates LLC / J.V. Burks and Associates Incorporated. Parish Council District Representative Honorable Cheryl Tanner. General location, the property is located north of Country Club Drive, west of Money Hill Parkway, north of Louisiana Highway 435, Abita Springs, Ward 6, District 6. Staff?
Yes, sir. The preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office, and an inspection was made of the site on March 30th, 2023. Preliminary approval of this case shall be subject to the developer complying with all informational items below, and no work order to be issued until all required items are satisfactorily completed and submitted. Additionally, no mandatory developmental fees are required. Thank you.
Anything else, Ted?
Oh, no, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, representing Money Hill Plantation LLC. And our request for preliminary subdivision approval is for this 8-lot phase, which will be constructed on an existing road within the subdivision, all utilities in place, all drainage in place. Hence, probably the reason for no comments from staff as it relates to infrastructure. So we would appreciate your approval of preliminary subdivision approval so we can move forward and come back to you soon for final subdivision approval. Any of you have any questions or comments, I'm going to stay at the podium and be glad to address them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shane. Well, looks like everybody left. I don't think those that are here would have any further comments. So I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Seeger.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Seeger to approve. Commissioner Truxillo.
The questions are actually to make you talk, but I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on item 15. Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right, we go to final approval. This is item 16. Case is 2023-3249-FP, Oaklawn Trace Subdivision Phase 2. Developer owner J-Mac Development LLC. Engineers Kelly McHugh and Associates. Parish Council District Representative Honorable Arthur Laughlin. General location, the property is located on the south side of US Highway 190, east of Transmitter Road, west of South Tranquility Road, Lacombe, Ward 7, District 11. This was postponed at the March 8th meeting for 1 month. Staff?
Yes, sir. Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made on March 29th, 2023. The inspection disclosed that all of the asphalt roads and road shoulders are constructed. However, the shoulders needed to be graded, and the roadside ditches needed a final grading/vegetation. The following uncompleted items, number 1 through 5, existed at the time of the final inspection and will be completed before final plats are signed. Additionally, should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of 3,670 linear feet at $22 per linear feet, for a total of $80,740 for a period of 2 years. No mandatory developmental fees are required since this project entered into a voluntary developmental agreement which has been satisfied to date. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, representing the owner and developer. I've given you an email response to each matter that was presented to you in the staff report. At the bottom of page 1 of the staff report, it was brought to your attention that the shoulders needed to be vegetated and the roadside ditches needed final grading and vegetation. You'll see the first comment, which I've highlighted in yellow. By the way, this email is from Adam Henning, who is the developer of this phase. The other 5 comments, perhaps I will not read, knowing that you can read, and also because my voice is failing, but we believe that they're indicative that the work has been or is soon to be done. And we would respectfully request that you grant final subdivision approval this evening, knowing that staff will not authorize the circulation and signature of the plats till they've re-inspected the site and determined that all these matters have been completed. We specifically waited to tender this report or make this report as of Friday of last week to make sure that we thought all of the work either had been or would soon be completed. We recognize that staff has not had a chance to see what's been done on site, but we ask that rather than pushing this matter to May, that you consider approving it this evening on the grounds that I have suggested. If any of you have comments or questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shane. I'm going to close the floor to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
Okay, Jeff, unfortunately, I'm going to have to ask you a couple of questions here.
Sure.
Item number 1 on your report, that addresses the trace, I guess that's a sidewalk for the trace is what you're talking about?
Yes, sir, and we came before you and got approval to enter the trace, right. And the legislation has been passed by the council.
Okay.
And we're kind of in the administrative process.
Okay, so you're trying to figure out how to get the work order. And
yes,
so
sir.
The intent is to put a sidewalk with a culvert or something?
Yes, a sidewalk, and if I remember correctly, any necessary drainage. But I think we were able to eliminate the removal of any trees or very few trees.
Yeah, I mean,
we shrunk it.
Yeah, all you need is a sidewalk going across.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have more of a question. I don't have a problem with the approval of the neighborhood, but I do have a question. Last month, after the meeting was over, some residents in Oaklawn Trace came up and spoke with Ted and I about the sewage treatment facility and the noise that it generates. Ted, did you get a chance to talk to anybody about that or look into it?
No, sir. So I actually did as part of the staff report, consider making that comment, but maybe you recall from last meeting, we asked the constituents who were concerned to provide us some information.
Right.
So that we can circulate it to Director Brown,
Okay.
as well as the utility company, and to date, I've received no information from them.
Okay.
And I gave them my contact, I didn't get their contact, so
Okay.
I had no one to really circulate that for on anyone's behalf. So I did not make any comment to it, nor have I reached out to anybody, because I received no notification from them formally like we requested. But I did remember it, and I was wondering if they were going to be here or not today.
Oh, okay. Well, I got an email from them. I'll pass it on to you. I thought
Yes,
you
sir,
got
I
it.
did not
Okay.
get that email. No,
All right,
sir.
I'll pass that on. Anyhow, I went out there. It was two items that they brought up. One was that the existing drainage way was overgrown and needed to be cleaned out. Now, that's obviously a parish item. So I think Ted was going to handle that. Ted, were you looking into that?
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken, that is, let me rephrase that statement. That is a publicly maintained drainage feature, and so it is our responsibility
Okay.
to clean it.
Okay.
So as a matter of when we get it
Right.
cleaned is.
So
to be
we're on
determined.
notice, the parish is on notice for it.
Yes,
So
sir,
that's
we will
fine.
get that
Requested that a
Okay.
while ago.
Okay. The other item was the noise of the sewage treatment facility. So I went out there and did some studies, and I see what the residents are talking about. It's very loud around the facility, mainly in the back. It seems like most of the noise goes out the back, but I was getting 83 decibels, which is pretty loud right there. The volume, and I know Mr. McHugh's listening to this, the volume didn't seem to be really the problem. It's a deep frequency, a very deep bass frequency. So I'd like to ask y'all, if you could, maybe you can bring in a sound engineer or something to take a look at that. I think it's something they can probably get mitigated pretty easy, and it would help those surrounding houses. There's probably about 10 houses that are pretty much affected by this, okay?
Yes, sir.
So again, I don't have a problem approving this, but I would like your agreement to do some further work on that.
Sure.
And present it to Mr. Reynolds, and of course, we have the final plat, so we'll take that into account when we do that. So I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner Truxillo.
Well, Commissioner Crawford, I was going to mention about the sound, but you already covered that, so I have nothing to say. I second.
Second by Commissioner Truxillo. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right, let me get my paperwork. All right, the next item is new business, it's item 17. It's chapter 125, section 160 of the proposed ordinance. Legal's advised me that we have to have a 100% vote to bring it and discuss it, and it takes a majority to pass it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so let me go forward with it, and we'll go from there. Staff is requesting a modification to this section regarding the allowance of exceptions that are needed for certain parcels, sites that meet specific criteria in accordance with the proposed draft ordinance. Okay? Legal?
Sorry.
Pardon?
I missed what you were asking me.
Well, I mean,
Just need a motion.
okay, Commissioner Hernandez, you have a comment?
Yes, actually, I have lots of problems with what's being proposed here. And so I would vote, I would not be supportive of considering discussion with this, but I do have a number of comments which I would like addressed or at least considered when this matter hopefully comes up next month on this. I think it's interesting that the matter was brought up under off-the-floor items here Thursday. And so, I mean, just at the council meeting. And so now it appears today, you know, in our section here for consideration, and there's been no publication in terms of, unless of course you were good enough to look at what's online for the matter to see that. I think it's interesting, the letter that was written here for this introduction, and I'm wondering, if I'm not going to support this, is it appropriate for me to go ahead and ask questions about this ordinance now or not?
No, I think it's a matter of voting it up or down at this point, and
Okay.
then you can discuss it at a later date.
Okay.
Just voting to bring it up for discussion.
Okay, Commissioner Seeger.
I'd like a little bit of clarification about what exceptions, what parcels, and what are specific criteria before I feel like I could make a recommendation to approve or disapprove. There's a lot of ambiguity there.
And I can tell you, just as a point of clarity on this, these recommendations to this came from staff. It originated from me and Ted. It's something, and I would be glad to discuss y'all why we are recommending these things. It came, our legal opinion on this came in at the end of March, and we requested that the council bring it in off the floor, but if you would like to hold this until another time, we'd be glad to sit with y'all and run through everything. It's no problem.
That being said, I'd move to approve until we can, even if you send us out an email or something regarding this, we'd appreciate it. I move to postpone.
I think, I mean, and I'll let legal correct me if I'm wrong, I believe what we're looking for right now is we need to open up the floor to discuss this new item, which requires unanimous vote.
Correct.
So that would be your first point of order right now, and if not everyone unanimously agrees, then it doesn't move past that, and we don't discuss it past that.
Correct.
If you bring it up off the floor, then we can discuss it in depth or whatever questions, and then there would be a vote on whether or not you guys recommend or don't recommend the text change. But-
Correct, it's a point of order
Yes,
at
sir.
this point.
So it'd be a point of order, or the point of order would say if someone doesn't represent or want to talk about it tonight, then it doesn't come off the floor and we end the meeting. So, and then we'll talk
And
about it
we'll
next
request
month.
it on the agenda next.
Yes, sir. This is all just because of a timing issue and the only reason you guys are seeing it off the floor at all, or else it would have been on the agenda like normal and you would be discussing it tonight. But like Daniel said, because of the timing, it got the legal transmittal back at the end of March. We couldn't meet public advertisement deadlines, but in order to still expedite this ordinance change, which staff feels is pertinent, we requested it to be off the floor, but it is your responsibility and right as the commission to say, I don't want to hear it off the floor, I want it to be advertised. I hope I didn't misspeak.
No, you're correct.
Thank you, sir.
So what do we want to do, Tom?
I move that we hear the case.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Seeger to hear the case tonight. Commissioner Smale.
My opinion would be that we don't hear it off the floor, that we put this on agenda for next week, and as we've heard from Mr. Hernandez, he's not going to vote for hearing it tonight anyway. I motion, I don't think I'm allowed to make any motions on that. I can second his motion, I can second Mr. Seeger's motion, even though I don't approve of it, and we'll vote on it.
Right.
All right, got it.
All right, I had somebody else up, and it's disappeared. Who was it?
That was me. I just was trying to get,
Oh, okay, all right.
He was flailing in the water. That comes off the floor, so let's deny it.
All right, so we've got a motion.
To hear the case.
Pardon?
You have a motion and a second.
To hear the case.
To hear it tonight. Yeah. So a yes vote would be, we'll hear it. A no vote will be, that we will hear it in a month?
Well, it has to
Okay.
be 9 votes.
Pardon?
But it
It has to be 9 to
Yeah,
hear
it
it.
takes 9 votes to do it, so. All right, so I'm gonna call for the vote. Let's go.
Mr. Truccosello, Mr. Smale, Mr.
Troncoso didn't.
Okay. The motion to hear it tonight fails.
Okay. All right, so now this will come back to us in 1 month. Right? Okay, I just wanted to be sure I had it right.
It's, yeah, you're correct.
Okay, you got all your notes, Nick? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Yes, sir. Okay.
All right. Okay. All right, we are out of here. What time is it?
You never had.
Okay, then it's fine.